Good evening, everybody. We're, they asked me to say a couple words before the meeting. They're actually giving an update on the dam, and it's a good option for us anyway when these guys show up, because there's some things that we want to raise the water level of the lake, because the studies that they're doing on the walleyes and stuff now, when the water levels are higher, the walleyes have more better year of spawning, and we have a better success rate of baby walleyes that year. When the water levels are lower, they don't do as good. And I know one of the other things they're working with them with is they're gonna take off the rock dam that those small walleyes can get up that way and through a fish bypass. That's an obstruction for them. And it's good that you guys showed up. That's the first time you guys came up and did an update. So that's kind of good for me to see someone else. I know one of the things that bothers the tribe is that it's our water and stuff, and we don't have a say in the way it goes run, and that's kind of a thorn in the tribe side, because we would like more of a say in what happens on our land and our lake. So, I guess you guys can do your presentation now. I don't know if the chairman, do you want to say anything there?
Well, you said about everything.
Okay.
That's my concern is the water level as well. You don't have a say with that in our lake.
Yeah.
That's the question I have. Why does our lake still notify when you guys control the water?
Thanks, Al. Thanks, Chairman Zippy. Thank you all for coming out. Thank you for welcoming us.
I have a question. So with these meetings, did you already have them in other communities? Because I know that's one of the issues that was brought to our concern as a tribal council, that the Army Corps of Engineers was going to Washkish and going to these non-native communities to get their input, when as the majority owners of that water, this lake, y'all should have came to us first. So that we had a lot of our members calling us and voicing their concerns, and
No, we did. We had in the fall a meeting, deeper fall meeting in Waskish. We intended to have a meeting in Red Lake Nation. Unfortunately, our point of contact had health issues, and on the dates that we wanted to be able to hold that meeting, with the respect that Red Lake Nation is a sovereign nation, we can't say we're having a meeting on this day. We have to go through proper line of communication. So we weren't able to have a meeting at that point in time when we first wanted to. We were able to have interactions on a staff level with our fisheries biologists, the water management, and the Red Lake Department of Natural Resources. The agency inputs also really factor heavily in this as well. So we were able to have those discussions, and the intent was to have those meetings during that weekend for communities. This is, as we'll talk about, a multi-year process, and going forward, it's our every, we will be back to, talk on a government-to-government level, and we'll be back to talk with the community as well to get everyone's input input, not just the agencies, but to get everyone's input. Well, thank you. Thank you all for coming out. Thanks for welcoming us to Red Lake. I'm really happy to see so many people out here tonight taking an interest in the lake and here to share with us all of your experiences and your knowledge. We're coming up from St. Paul. We don't live up here, and we're here tonight to listen and to learn. We'll spend a little bit of time with the presentation talking about a little bit of information about the water control manual update process and a little bit about how the water control manual is currently written. But really, we're trying to keep our presentation brief, and our goal here tonight is to give everyone here a chance to speak in front of everyone if they want to speak one-on-one with us if they want to, and to submit comment cards, and all of those will feed into the water control manual update process that we're going into. It's a collaborative effort that we're all working on together, and we want to make sure that everyone's voices are heard. So thank you. I'm really happy that you all came out tonight. My name is Colin Smith. Like I said, I'm with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, St. Paul District. I'm a water resources engineer. My background is in stream and wetland restoration. I've been with the Corps for about a year. I'm here with Trevor Sykers, biologist. I'm here with Jason Tidwell, who's a water management engineer. I'm here with Liz Nelson, who's a water management engineer. With Katie Opsel, a water resources planner. With Jason Hauser, who is a dam operator. We're here with Liz Stockman, who works in our public affairs department. I'm here with Nancy Dillenberg, who's our gallant Liz with us as well. Like I said, we're here to share today about the water control manual effort. We're here to listen to your ideas for operations, your observations of what effect the current water control manual, the current water control practices, the dam and the water levels have had on impacts to fisheries, on impacts to basically anything that you've observed with living with the lake daily. Well, we have this presentation currently streaming just for the presentation portion online. It will also be recorded, so if you know of anyone who's not able to attend tonight, I encourage you, and we'll share that information of where you can find this presentation online. That can be shared. We also have printout copies of the presentation of the posters and information that can be shared for everyone's consideration, so we can get everyone. Like I said, we'll have a 15-minute presentation. I may have even already gone over that just by keeping on talking, but we'll try to keep it fairly brief. We'll let an open input period. Like I said, you can stand up. I'll pass around the microphone. I'll come up to you. I want you to share your experiences and share your knowledge of the lake. After that, we'll have an open house period for anyone who wants to come around and talk one-on-one with any of us in the group, or not one-on-one, but so we can talk face-to-face and really have a dialogue about the process and about your observations, so we can learn from you. In general, we're trying to keep the presentation brief, so we'll hope that we can save questions for the open input time, and we'll all have an opportunity to answer those. Fortunately, we got a great turnout, and so everyone should have an opportunity to speak tonight. I'll come around with a microphone. During the open house, we'll be available one-on-one to answer questions. You'll be able to share comments in writing with the comment sheet over at the sign-in table. If you haven't had the chance to sign in, that's what the table over there is for. You can sign in. That's also where we have the comment cards, and like I said, the copies of the presentation, and the posters that are around the room as well. And so you can either fill out and hand us one of those comment cards. You can pulled up and mailed one of those comment cards, or your comments can be submitted online or received. So thank you, and I'll now turn it over to my colleague Jason Tidwell to talk more about water control.
Thank you, Colin. Again, I'm Jason Tidwell. I'm the primary regulator. I work in St. Paul in the water management section. And I make decisions day to day on how to operate the dam and to complex modeling and so forth. I put up a slide of just to make sure everybody knows what dam we're talking about. The Redby Dam was built in the 1930s originally and completed in 1951. You can see there also the Wisconsin migration channel as well. There are 4 bays to the dam, and 3 of them are controlled with gates. The 4th one has stop bars in it. We don't really use that for water control, but we had to release more water from the lake because it got too high, then we had to put stop bars on that bay. Really from the take from this slide is that for every dam project that the Army Corps manages, the U.S. Congress authorizes specific purposes. And the purposes of this dam that the U.S. Congress has authorized are for flood control, water supply, and leaching abatement. Now, what is a water control manual? Well, a water control manual has a lot of information about the dam. It talks about organization, like I just mentioned, special organization, it talks about the history of the dam and when it was built, has diagrams and drawings on the dam when it was originally constructed. It'll have information on weather and climate. A little closer to the microphone, sorry. Okay, yep, I'm sorry. Speak up. Thank you for letting me know. Just talk like this? Is better? Yeah, right. Okay, and period. Okay, what is the water control manual? It is a manual that has a lot of information on it. It has information about when it was originally constructed, authorization I just mentioned from the last slide. It'll have the history of the dam project. It'll have information about the weather and the climate. Other information about special contacts, but probably the most important of all sitting in this room is going to talk about the operations of the dam. Now, the operations is the instructions, very specific instructions that I have to follow in the dam that address those purposes I just mentioned. Purposes for flood control, purposes for water supply, and for pollution abatement. So they've set down specific rules how I manage and operate the dam, whether it's in the summertime, the springtime, during flood, and during emergency. So I can't make up the operation of the dam. I have to follow this water control manual. And that's what we're all here today to gather information and input from the communities and collaborate on what is the new update. The current manual is from 1964. We're supposed to update things a lot more frequently than the time that's elapsed since 1964. There was an attempt in the 1990s to get one passed, and it didn't. This time we're going to try and get water control manual completed. Another important aspect of it is if there are occasions where I have to go outside of the operational rules, and it's called a deviation. I have to request from my headquarters, go through a lot of steps in order to deviate just a little bit from the operational rules. That's how strict the water control manual is for how I operate. So I need special instructions from headquarters, and then I can do it, but only with special permission. So the current, the general operation of the dam, just in general, is we're trying to do right now, working with the water control manual, an elevation, full elevation of 1174. So starting in the summer, that's what we're trying to hit. Now we have a very small outlet. Someone said it really kind of, I thought it was pretty close to what it did. Pinhole in the bathtub is the outlet. it really doesn't let very much out. It's very difficult to control the level of this lake with that outlet. It's just so small. The lake is just so big. The main outlet for water in this lake is evaporation during the summertime. It's way more than ever goes out of the dam itself. But that is dependent on how much sunshine and a lot of other things too. So, but the biggest outflow is evaporation in the summertime. Now, in the fall and the winter time, the water control manual tells us to try to draw the lake down to 1173.5. And that is because after doing some studies originally as part of the water control manual, they felt that the spring runoff always gave a foot rise to the lake in the spring from the snow melt runoff. So then we just draw it back down to 1174 in the summer, and then back down to 1175, 173.5 in the winter, and do the same thing. Of course, we all know every year is different, especially this year and the year before and the year before that. So the other thing about our water control manual is in the fall and the winter, we're supposed to draw it down to 1173.5, and then just before the spring melt hits, we're supposed to close the gates to what they call, and this is true in the water control, a nominal flow level. And what that typically is about between 100 and 100 CFS, or cubic feet per second. So it's a really small amount. And that is to help for flood control downstream. Now we're looking, and that is until the floods, the snow melt runoff downstream passes, then we can open it up again and draw it down to 1174. So we're looking at high landing downstream is one of the places we look at, and we're looking at not helping them keep the stage below 8.75 feet, and we're also looking at Crookston and helping them to try and keep it below 18 feet. That can be kind of difficult because there's 1.5 days between Red Lake and high landing, and there's a week or more before it gets to Crookston, so it's difficult to time a closing and opening at Red Lake for that in the springtime, but we try to do that. So that's what happens in the springtime. We close down the flow just before the snow breakup. We wait for the flood to pass downstream, and then we open up again. And then it all repeats itself the next day. I put this diagram up here is a public website. Anybody can access it. The complicated website down here, you can take a photo of it, so you can go to it. But it has what we have as our current lake levels. It'll have the current elevation just below the dam. It'll have what we're outletting from the dam. And it also has on that website a copy of the water control manual in PDF form, so you can look at it yourself. So it's not a secret. You can go and download it and look at it and see what it says. I thought this was an interesting graphic to put up. I pulled this up on February 1st. This line right here is the graves line, which is from the lake level from last year. Remember, after 2 years, 2 wet years, lake level was very high. You see, if you look right here, you can start to look like this is a water here. Right now, we're keeping right there. This green area is the middle is the 50%, and that's the 75%, that's the 25%. So this is like the average. Right now, we're seeing the highest water average for the lake level at this time. And we're up at about 270 to 290 CFS from the dam. So it also shows a couple other markers from the crowd back there, some other levels where people are dropping numbers down here. It's not the greatest graphic for this kind of exercise, but I thought I would show an example of we're coming out of a wet year right here. Now we're still in a smooth drop. This year, this is where we are right now. So we have a good idea where we are in relation to the historic flows for Red Lake. These are the historic levels of the year. It's the highest it's ever gotten for this month in the world. With that, I will pass it on to my colleague, Robert Cyclist, to talk a little bit about marketing.
Thanks, Jason. Can everyone hear me all right? Yeah, so I'm a biologist for the Water Control Manual update, and with that update, we do a feasibility report as well as an integrated EA, which looks at NEPA, or the National Environmental Policy Act. So anything we as a federal entity does, we have to analyze what those impacts could be on the environment, the people, basically everything. So with that, I want to talk about some of the environmental positives between both Red Lake and Red Lake River. So there's two really distinct areas that the Water Control Manual dictates and changes, right? So some positives, you have fish and wildlife, a really great sport fishery. The walleye are vital to the area. You have white-tailed deer, black bear, as well as your waterfowl and migratory birds. You have a number of unique habitats in the area as well. You have the Zagaye Marsh, you have the peat bogs to the north, as well as a lot of different forests that are important to this area. With that, there's a number of impairments, that are maybe not the greatest thing about the area from an environmental standpoint. The wind wave action, the lake is very large, right? So you get a lot of wind that comes across it, creates waves, it increases turbidity, so that results in low light penetration. So that makes it difficult for plants to grow, aquatic plants, and it also results in a lot of shoreline erosion. There's also minor to moderate algal blooms, which are kind of dictated by elevated total phosphorus as well as chlorophyll A. There's a number of impaired tributaries in the area, particularly low dissolved oxygen in the E. coli. And there is an invasive species, starry stonewort. So those are some of the positives and more some negatives for Red Lake. And then I'll talk real briefly about the Red Lake River. So some positives, relatively good water quality, natural meandering past that channelized portion right outside of Red Lake. There's a number of riffles and pools that are really good from like a river standpoint. Many portions of good fishing and kayaking and other recreations. Some of the impairments, there's channelized right at the outlet by the dam, which is not ideal. Al talked about this, some loss of physical connectivity. That's the fish passage obstruction of the dam shown in the image here. There's some lack of base flow during droughts, poorly defined floodplain. There also is that wind and water erosion aspect to it, as well as some low dissolved oxygen and high turbidity. And also, I need to talk about endangered species because we need to analyze any of the impacts that we could pose to those species with the Water Control Manual update. And this is just a list of the endangered species within the area, part of the Endangered Species Act. So you have the northern longyear bat, tricolored bat, Canadian lynx, the gray wolf, and the monarch butterfly. So that's all I have from like a biological standpoint for the Water Control Manual. I think going back to Colin to wrap up.
Thanks, Trevor. So like I said earlier, this is part of a multi-year, multi-part process. We have 3 parts. Right now, we're in part 1. And our purpose here is to collect and organize comments, to hear from everyone who lives and uses and just lives with along the lake and the area around it, to get your comments and your understandings of the lake and the impacts of the dam. We'll also talk to agencies, like I said, and we'll begin to study individual ideas that come from those comments, written comments, spoken comments, comments submitted online as well. We'll take those in and we'll look at individual ideas. We'll perform modeling of those alternatives and continue studying those alternatives. In the future, these are to be scheduled still, our part 2 and part 3 of the updates. So after we study those individual ideas, we'll be coming back to the community, back to the agencies to talk about the results of those studies, to collect people's feedback on the ideas that we studied, any feedback we may have missed the first time, or if we didn't capture the ideas properly in our studies. We'll get your feedback on that, and we'll take that to part 2 of the update, where we'll continue to study alternatives, any developments from those meetings. We'll have, like I said, we'll have a second set of meetings with agencies, with everyone, and then we'll go to part 3, where we again to reschedule, and these are roughly in 1-year chunks. And so part 2 and part 3 will be coming, and we'll take the feedback from part 2, continue going with part 3, modeling, seeking feedback, and then eventually when we have a plan that we've worked through, we have to submit it up to our headquarters for approval. And so as this is a 3-part process, and this is our first time meeting all of you, with the comment cards, if there's anything that we could present better, any way that we could present or meet with you all better, it doesn't have to be an evening meeting, it can be a day meeting, anything you can think of that makes it easier for us to be able to talk with everyone and to make sure that we're able to hear from more people. We want to hear that. This is a multi-year process, and we'll be back to keep talking with you all. So for right now, we're asking that comments are shared by March 15th, 2024. That's 30 days from tonight. Like I said, those can be written, handed to us. The comment cards are over on the table. They can be electronically mailed to Redby at usace.army.mil. And then, like Jason said, the gauge data is available online on the Army website. And we can share that link and make it easily distributable, so you can just click on it and see in real time what the conditions are as far as water level goes on the upstream end and the downstream end, and the water that's flowing out of the dam, the flow rate that Jason was talking about. Like Al mentioned, there is also currently in feasibility tribal partnership program going on. That's my colleague Daniel is here, the planner for that effort. And Danny, do you want to share more on this?
Hello, I'm Daniel Lock, I'm the planner when we're looking at the restoration in March and dealing with what I just learned, we locally called the rock ram dam, and incorporating some fish patches there. So we're kind of in the initial phases of that. We'd like to reach out and hear what the tribe wants. We want to hear what would look best, what is the desire, what is the outcome we'd like to see. And so I'm here tonight to talk to you about it, answer any questions we can in the preliminary phrases, and kind of just put a face to you. So we're looking at it, we want to get the fish patches, we want to see what we can do for the march. And I think there's a second one. Yeah, so I'm the middle one. My name's Daniel Lock, I'm the lead planner. You can reach out to any names on here. Lee Youngblood is our engineer, and Bob Bishop is our project manager. If you want a copy of this, please do. We would like to hear more from members. We'd like to hear what we'd like to see out there. So again, thank you.
So like I said, we'll have an opportunity for open input. It seems to work best if we just speak up without the microphone. But if you want it, raise your hand and I'll bring it over to you so it can be easier to hear you. And then after that, we'll be able to talk one-on-one as well. So now that we've had the opportunity to talk at you, we want to be able to start conversation and hear from you. These are a few ideas that we consider when we look at a water control manual. What issues and resources should we study? What things are working or aren't working? And what options can be considered. And besides those ideas, we're open to observations and anything that we can learn.